What's up guys, welcome back, and today is the final comparison video that I'm going to be doing with the Friedman Plex before it goes back. I've already gotten the UPS return label, unfortunately, so my time with this amp has come to an end. However, not before we compare it with my Silver Jubilee that my buddy Ryan built years and years ago from a Ceriatone kit with upgraded internal bits, better transformers and things like that. Just an absolutely stunning overall amp with a lot of flexibility, and it really suits that 90s rock thing that our band does extremely well. Just effortless with that kind of music. Now, I'm not going to be doing any sort of like trying to, amp A versus amp B here in the intro, because these two amps, they sound very different from one another, and I didn't expect them to sound really much anything kind of alike, but they are cut from the same cloth. I mean, this is sort of a updated, tweaked version of the circuitry found in this. They share a lot of the same DNA, but they go about producing their sound very differently. So rather than trying to focus on how similar are they, I just want to show you guys what they sound like side by side with each other so that you can hear sort of how the formula for the Marshall sound evolved from sort of like this OG high gain circuit to a more modern take on it, using, instead of the power section for a lot of that high gain, this one uses the that red LEDs in there for its gain. And obviously another big difference between these two amps is that this is a 2-channel amp. You can switch between a clean-ish type sound and a lead sound, and the rhythm channel, the clean channel, it actually has a clipping option where you can make it cleaner or you can have it kind of crunchy, and I really like the way that the rhythm channel sounds when you've got it flipped to the crunchy sound. All right, let's just go ahead and get started. Like the other videos that I've done with the Plex, it is using the exact same settings in the aux box, and I'm using the Explorer and the Origin Effects MEQ driver, and we will be just getting right into it. This is gonna be the Plexi first. And now the Origin boost. Alright, I'm going to kill the reverb here in the aux box so you can hear just the basic amp and the cab. And there's a little bit of the room sound still in there, so it's not bone dry. I really don't like the way anything sounds bone dry. Just me. Okay, I'm plugged into the Jubilee now, and the gain is almost halfway up. Now, obviously this amp does have more gain available than the Plexi, but I wanted to dial in sort of a similar amount of saturation to sort of kind of keep the vibe the same between the two amps. The only control on the amp that's not all the way up is the presence. This amp does bite a little bit harder than the Friedman, and so I've got the presence pulled back to right around 3 o'clock there. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. This is on the lead channel. Okay, let's click on the MEQ driver and hear what that sounds like. Okay, I'm going to change the MEQ driver, the mid-range setting from 1 kilohertz over to 800 hertz to sort of beef up the low end a little bit more and see if we can get it a little bit closer, because this amp is, it's a very, it's a much more cutting sound than the Friedman. So let's go ahead and change that and see how it affects the sound. Okay, the MEQ driver is off and I've got the reverb off as well. So this is just the amp and a little bit of that room sound that you heard earlier. All right, EQ driver is back on. Okay guys, well that's these two amps compared to one another. Not very similar in my opinion, especially here in the room. I don't know how the recording is going to translate the differences or similarities, but anyways, hopefully that gives you an idea of what a Plexi circuit versus a Jubilee circuit sounds like. And the Jubilee, I mean, it cuts a little bit harder, it has more gain, it's a little bit thinner sounding, the attack is a little bit more immediate, it doesn't squish like the Plexi does. Even with the Plexi in the high voltage setting, this amp still just has a much more like snappy and percussive attack to the notes. So yeah, this was a really fun comparison to do, and again, it's one of those where I knew how the 100-watt Super Lead sounded compared to this. I mean, it sounded like just a much, much bigger, louder, harder hitting Big Brother type sound, but also did share some of the similarities with this amp in terms of the more raw aggression to the overall structure of the sound, where the Jubilee is a little bit more polished and put together and sort of better composed, especially once you've got the gain really cranked up. But this was the first time I actually got to hear 50 watts versus 50 watts. And again, a lot of the similarities from my Super Lead did translate into what I was hearing with this compared to the Jubilee. So it was basically just not as rowdy of an amp as the 100-watt version was. Okay guys, well that is going to wrap up this comparison video and just sort of the comparisons of this amp versus several different things in the studio. And yeah, glad I got to spend some time with this amp. It's just absolutely unbelievable sounding amp. Feels really good, sounds really good, and it seems like it can just kind of adapt to so many different styles and types of music. So yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me in this, and yeah, this gets to go back to Zzounds, and keep an eye out on their website for this one coming in at a discount because it obviously has already been used. And it still smells really good. All right guys, I'm out. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.